you for joining us, Sean.
Of course.
So a year and a half ago, wow, these are very close together.
I know. Get away.
A year and a half ago, you were at another Disrupt. You were at Disrupt New York.
Yes.
And you were actually a part of Startup Battlefield.
Yes.
Presenting Cardify, which was an app that tracked loyalty purchases.
Yes.
What happened to that?
Which is not why we're here today.
Yeah, no, you're here because you're successful now. We didn't pick you as a finalist either, which was
not fair.
Bad on our part. So what happened to Cardify?
So we were very passionate about what we were building at Cardify, but we had this insane passion for Tinder, and it was an idea that we were fostering for a very long time. And at some point, it's just like we had to build it because it solved a problem for us and so many people around us that we took a little detour and built that. And once we launched it into the world, it grew faster than we ever could imagine. And as a result, we had to sort of focus our energy on Tinder to sort of sustain its growth. And Cardify, which was a great product, unfortunately took a back seat and now is sort of on the shelf while we focus on Tinder.
So did you start Tinder because you personally had a problem meeting people?
I think that the thing is that there's so many tools that help us connect with people that we know that as a society, ironically, we've been so much better at connecting with sort of the relationships that we have, at building them further, but meeting new people has not only been such a difficult thing historically, but over time now it's actually becoming more difficult. The reason being, you're either a hunter, you're going after a relationship, and in that case, whether it's in business, romance, or anything, you feel like you're putting yourself out there and you feel a little rejected. And you're on the other end of that, you're being hunted and you feel overwhelmed and you feel like you're too exposed. And social media and all these tools that help us connect with people that we know has exposed us further, has allowed a hunter to hunt more often, get rejected more often, and somebody to get pursued more often, that our ability to meet new people has become socially more difficult, physically more difficult. So we started Tinder because we wanted to build a platform and build a way that you could easily connect with interesting people around you and make new relationships in a very natural and organic way through the app.
So how did you come up with the swiping thing? I don't know if you guys have seen Tinder, but...
Who's seen Tinder?
Who's seen Tinder here? It's actually pretty cool. And people use it differently. Like, I've seen guys just right swipe every girl. It's like...
It happens.
It's like...
Yes. How are you using it?
Oh, it's a match. It's a match. Are you here? Oh, no, that's not fair to him. No. All right, this could go on forever.
It's a little addicting, right?
Yeah. How did you come up with this?
So like I said, I think there's this desire we all have to make new relationships, whether you're in this room and you see somebody that you just want to go over and say hi to, or you're walking down the street, or whether it's in business and whatever, but walking over and actually saying hello is a daunting experience. It's a scary experience. And when you walk into a room, you're constantly sending these signals. You're saying yes and no to people subconsciously, but those signals are being thrown away and wasted. And our vision at Tinder is to capture those signals, find out that when somebody you want to meet actually wants to meet you back, we want to make that connection and allow you guys to sort of to converse on Tinder and take that relationship wherever you want to take it.
Do you think maybe you're encouraging people to be superficial by just making judgments based on someone's looks? Or are people just like that?
I think that's what people do. It's we all have first impressions. Like I said, you walk into a room and you sort of make a quick judgment based on a first impression. But actually, I like to think that Tinder is actually less superficial than our everyday lives or everyday interactions with people, because when I look at somebody just in the room, I have a certain amount of information to go on. But when I see their picture, the actual photo that they chose to express themselves, whether it's somebody on a ski slope or at a conference, that says more as a first impression about who you are than a quick glance in a room. And I think that is actually less superficial than sort of the traditional first impression that we sort of get today when it comes to making new relationships.
So you actually met your current girlfriend on Tinder.
Yes.
She's backstage and she's beautiful. So
Thank you.
That's a product endorsement.
She is very beautiful.
How did that happen?
I swiped right. And we matched. And the rest is history.
What was the first thing? Did you talk to her first? Because it's hard for girls, right? We're
You know, the beauty of Tinder is when you match with somebody like what you just experienced, it's this great moment, kind of like in high school when you found out that your crush actually has a crush on you back. And then it's like all of a sudden you're Superman and you're not afraid to say anything or do anything or ask them out. It sort of creates that moment over and over and over again, and it instills that confidence in you. So when I matched with her, you know, I wasn't afraid to sort of say hi and, you know, tell me about yourself or whatever, because I knew she was into me as well. She swiped right, I swiped right, and it was a match, and we talked actually for a while on Tinder, and then eventually started talking on phone, and then we met, and we hit it off.
So there's a lot of incumbents in the dating space. OkCupid and Match are the biggest ones,
Right.
and they're owned by IAC, which is where Tinder was incubated.
Yep.
And you're only investor.
Yes.
So is that at all uncomfortable? You know, you're disrupting, for lack of a better word, these older products, and yet you share a parent company.
I think, you know, if you look at the space, Tinder sits in sort of its own category and its own demographic. It has a different set of users that don't overlap necessarily with other players, and it's also a very different product. So I think, you know, I don't want to say complementary, I just don't see us as competitive because we have a very different audience and a very different use case. Tinder's used, you know, more with a younger crowd in a social setting, and those other products are used in different ways.
So Sam from OkCupid is actually your board member.
Yeah.
How did the board
Great guy.
discussions go? Does he say, don't do this because we're going to do this? Or?
No, not at all. I think, you know, just like any investor that has a portfolio of companies to oversee, you know, decisions are made based on, you know, the trajectory, the goal, the mission that company is trying to accomplish. And, you know, it's those decisions are really independent to what others are doing. And I think the second you actually start looking at your competition and you start looking at other companies is when you lose your own soul in what you're trying to accomplish. So for us, it's just about, you know, we have a goal, we have a vision, we have a place we want to be in the next many years. We have a sort of a narrative we want to instill in society, and, you know, it's all about sort of working towards that. And, you know, Sam, our investors, IAC, everyone's sort of just aligned with that vision.
Have you ever thought about spinning out and taking more VC money? I've heard rumors that VCs are just knocking down your door, swiping right real hard on you on Tinder, trying to figure out how to, you know, hand you arms full of cash or Bitcoin or whatever VCs are doing these days.
There's a fair amount of interest. We're fortunately in a place where we're financially very healthy, have enough capital to sort of see us through, you know, our next milestones. And it's just, you know, there's no reason to raise capital at the moment just because we're well off right now. And, you know, should that need ever come up, and, you know, it would be something that we would probably pursue much further down the road, but not right now.
Have you gotten more money from IAC since your first seed round? Is that why you're good?
They are our lead investors, and they've been our financiers until this point, and an invaluable partner in all of this.
How much money have you raised total?
We haven't disclosed that.
I haven't disclosed it. If you had to pick a VC, who would you pick? Benchmark's backstage.
I don't think that's. There's I think more important than the actual firm is the individual, and there are a couple individuals that I really admire. You know, I don't think it's fair to choose one, but, you know, there are some great, talented, thoughtful investors out there that at some point would be interesting to work with them at some point in at least my career.
So you're right. You're still early days. Tinder is only a year old, though it sounds or it feels like it's been around for much longer. What's next from a product perspective for you?
So we're all about helping you make a real-world, meaningful connection, and I think we're succeeding in some sense with that. Actually, we're doing well, but our goal is to sort of overcome every single problem you have when it comes to making a new relationship. I think we're doing a great job at that today, but there's still a long path. There's a long ways to go between now and ultimately truly fulfilling the vision that we have.
What do you think is the biggest problem with online dating? Like, what's the biggest pain point? What's everyone bitching about?
It's not just dating. It's making new connections is broken because of the hunter-hunted relationship that I was describing. It's like whether you're somebody who's looking to build a business relationship or looking to, a guy looking to pursue a girl, you either have to put yourself out there or get bombarded and unnecessarily have to reject people. And it's a very inefficient experience, and one that leads to a lot of valuable relationships not being, not actually coming to fruition because either the person who's like the aggressor is closed off and is scared, or the person being pursued is just like, it feels like their space is being invaded. Like one thing we hear all the time from women, particularly younger women, is that when somebody approaches them in a bar or in a restaurant, it doesn't matter how attractive or desirable that person is, they feel like their space is being invaded. And that's a big shift, I think, in the way that maybe society would have handled those approaches in the past. So I think what that does is it leads to guys being less excited about actually approaching women and going to bars to hang out with their friends, not make new relationships. And the guys who actually do approach women are the creepers. And it sort of feeds into the whole cycle where women are like, whoa, like this next guy's probably also going to be a creeper because the last four were creepers. So I think it's slowly, the process of meeting new people and the experience is deteriorating. It's becoming more daunting, and that's what we want to fix. We want to make Tinder fun. We want you to be excited to sort of fulfill this desire to meet somebody new.
So how are you changing the product in the future? It hasn't evolved very much from the sort of hot or not model.
From the liking and noping.
Yeah.
It's about constantly improving the algorithm, which sort of decides who you see based on who we think you're going to successfully match with and your interests and your social graph and whatnot. And it's about taking your experience and sort of bringing it closer to home in a way. Like right now, we show you people in a certain radius around you, but we have this vision where you should be able to see people in the room that you're in right now. And if there's somebody that you want to meet, take out Tinder and swipe right and throw that signal into the world through Tinder in the room that you're at.
There's actually someone in the room that I've met through Tinder because I invited him. There he is, Joseph. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming.
And you're using Tinder to meet friends.
Yes, because I have a boyfriend I'm very in love with. I hope he's watching. Hi, Nico.
Hi, Nico.
Hi, Nico. I have a boyfriend I'm very in love with, but I'm also a writer and a technologist in some strange way. And I want to meet people. I don't think that your life should be over once you're committed to someone. How do I use Tinder to make friends?
So right now there is a unwritten context in a way that it's about meeting a romantic, sort of creating a romantic relationship. But I think, the double opt-in, as we call it, the process of expressing your interest in somebody and that interest matching somebody else's, is a universal thing across friendships, across business, across everything. So I think one thing we're very curious about is how can we take the Tinder model of the double opt-in and apply it to other sort of areas of social discovery. Arguably the biggest reason we want to meet new people is romantic, or that it's romantically charged. But there are other reasons, whether it's business or whether it's to make friends if you're on a college campus or in your industry, or even meet people in your office. I think we want to sort of, at a certain point, Actually, we're constantly thinking about those different dynamics.
How would the In The Room thing work? So you're actually saying that you're building a product that you could use in this room, like you're building this, right? Maybe. Okay, so you're building, how would this work? Describe this hypothetical product that you're maybe building.
So think about it this way. You're constantly opening Tinder because you want to make a new relationship, but you don't really know what that new relationship is. You don't know the person that you're about to see. Sometimes people open Tinder because they see somebody in a room and they want to find that person on Tinder. So what we want to make sure is that if you're in an area, if you're at a venue, a bar, a club, TechCrunch Disrupt, that the people you want to see, because you actually have a context of who they are, you saw them in person, will surface up in the app.
And how are you doing this?
Yet to be seen, but you'll see.
All right. When will I see it?
Soon.
All right. In a month?
Soon.
All right. You were talking about in-app payments at some point. It's fine, but it's fine. We're friends. We've been on stage for 10 minutes. I don't know. Okay. You've talked about in-app payments. Is that still on the horizon?
You know, I think when you are providing value to people, particularly the value of meeting somebody new, people are willing to pay for that value. You know, how we actually extract, how we actually get compensated for the value that we're giving is something that, we're constantly thinking about. In-app purchases is a model that we think about all the time, but, right now the focus is on perfecting the product and growing the user base and perfecting the algorithm and incrementally improving sort of the experience that we have today that's working. And at some point, there will be a conversation around revenue and sort of we would introduce something or revenue generating feature at some point.
So so now you're focused on growth.
Yes.
How big is Tinder? Registered users, daily active users, monthly active users?
I think we can't fit everyone in this room who's on Tinder, that's for sure. So we can't say how big our user base is. It is substantial. I can say that every day over 350 million swipes happen. We've done about...
How many of those are right swipes?
30% or so are right swipes. We've done to date about 30 billion profile ratings or swipes, and that's growing exponentially. And we've created about 350 million matches to date, and that's growing at about 3.5 million a day.
How many weddings?
How many what?
Weddings.
Of the weddings we know about, it's we've heard about 100 weddings. Actually, one of my friends was one of them, which is a nice experience.
What are you doing internationally? We are in Berlin. I've been using it, obviously. But Europe has different ideas about privacy and what's appropriate. What are your international plans, and do you have to adjust based on both cultural and then legal issues in every country?
So I think Tinder, by the way, is already global to some extent. We are one of the top apps in the U.S., in Canada, Australia, UK, France, Germany's on the rise, and there's a lot of other countries that we're sort of tipping in. What we found is that, first of all, this idea of the double opt-in is universal. It's not a cultural thing. I think everyone has this problem in meeting new people, and it's sort of a human issue. It's a human and social issue that we're solving. So, but definitely as you approach different countries, there are different nuances culturally that we want to respect, and there are slight variances in the product from country to country, and there will be more so. But as far as with respect to privacy, I think Tinder's safer than actual real-world encounters because in the real world, anyone can approach you. On Tinder, only the person you let approach you can approach you. And in the real world, you're as exposed as Tinder. So we care about not only the technical privacy of our users, if whether it's infrastructural or sort of just raw security, but we also care that the user experience in Tinder respects users' privacies and needs. And I think, we've done a lot to make, for example, girls comfortable in the app, and I think, and that's worked. And, it's one of the biggest topics with everything we develop moving forward is how do we continue to make our users feel comfortable, feel safe, put them in a fun environment, and particularly make girls feel secure, because I think a lot of these other platforms might alienate women to some degree.
Well, isn't the biggest problem that if you're a woman online dating, you just get a avalanche of guys, and then they're not the guys that you would...
Exactly. And Tinder solves that because you can get an avalanche of likes, but only the person you like back is the one that you can talk to. And we even have celebrities using Tinder, which is the most interesting thing.
What celebrities are using Tinder?
We can't say, but there are some pretty...
I've seen some tech celebrities on there. I've seen some investors that are like market research. I'm like, yeah.
But it's interesting because if you think about a celebrity, they are the epitome of being bombarded, right? So they
a lot of inbound.
They have a lot of inbound. And the fact that Tinder works for a celebrity is sort of is a signal of how Tinder can scale towards everyone's needs, whether it's a person like us or anyone in this audience or a celebrity who gets bombarded. Tinder sort of allows you to take control back and say that I want to like that person and only speak to that person, and the other 100 that you're not liking don't feel rejected and don't feel annoyed.
So what's the craziest thing that you've heard has happened because of Tinder? What's the craziest thing that you somehow inadvertently have been responsible for because of your platform?
Other than people getting married?
Other than you and your girlfriend, which is awesome. I wish I could build something that would be that
awesome.
Useful to myself.
I think the interesting thing we've been seeing is, these interesting use cases around how people are using Tinder, whether it's you meeting a friend, inviting the friend to TechCrunch Disrupt, or one thing we heard is a company was moving their LA office to Seattle. They're relocating 50 people, and those 50 people, some of them married, some of them not, decided to get on Tinder as a way of meeting new people in Seattle because they had no way to make new relationships once they landed in Seattle. But overwhelmingly, I think the greatest thing that we hear all the time, and sort of our contribution, I like to say, is the relationships being made every day, the marriages being created every day, that would have otherwise been lost.
So people are using it to do more than hook up.
Oh, absolutely. I think hookup is, whatever you use Tinder for is, we're creating a connection, but the ultimate result is up to you. Whether it's with respect to even relationships, right? You could be looking for a hookup, you could be looking, to get married, you could be looking for a short-term relationship. Tinder doesn't bucket you. All we do is we make an introduction, and the rest is up to you. When I walk into a coffee shop, I don't walk up to a girl and have like a stamp on my forehead saying, hey, I'm here to hook up, or here to get married, or here for a friend. I just have a dialogue, and the dialogue sort of takes us wherever we go, and that's exactly how Tinder works. Just like I meet somebody in a coffee shop, I walk up to them, or we sort of see eye to eye and we connect, and then we have a dialogue. On Tinder, we match and we have a dialogue. It's a very direct analog for the way that we make relationships in the real world in an optimal scenario.
Do you think the dating space has a stigma? Is that why it's been such a tough nut to crack? No pun intended.
Oh my God. The dating space does have a slight stigma. I think Tinder is starting to change that. But yeah, I mean, it's the whole notion of putting yourself out there carries a stigma with it. We are trying to solve that, which I think is why Tinder doesn't have too much of a stigma. But I think more importantly, you talk to people, and the thing that you constantly hear is, oh, meeting a new guy, meeting a girl, whatever, it's difficult, it's overwhelming, it's annoying. So
you meet them and you're like, this guy's weird.
Yeah.
We just talked about
forget about dating apps having a stigma. I think dating, period, or the act of meeting somebody new has a stigma that is problematic because there's this huge desire right? We almost, I think, as a society, it's as important to us, and the desire is as large to make new relationships as it is to cultivate the ones that we have. So I think like that need, that desire, has gone ignored in a bit as a society, and single-handed, like we're focused as a company on solving that, on focusing on making the process of meeting new people easier and fun. Tinder's fun. People tell us that all the time. Tinder is fun. You don't walk into Tinder because you necessarily want to meet somebody new. You walk into Tinder because the act of saying yes or no and throwing your desires out there is interesting. And once you get that match, it's like you walk away with this value you never expected. And I think that's the beauty of Tinder. It's you walk in with low expectations, the expectation being just having fun, and you walk out with some very meaningful value in your life.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sean. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.